October 18th, we're coming off a massive night here for the Edgeworth crew last night, and yet somehow one of the members of today's show has not been able to afford his power bill. As you see Matt Alber over there on his phone for today's show. I do appreciate the effort to still make it out here and show up for today's show, even without power in the apartment. But before we get into last night's games, Matt's missing Wi-Fi, Kirby Doc out for the year. We got to get into the BetStamp sponsorship, as BetStamp is one of the easiest ways to improve as a sports bettor because it helps you use multiple sportsbook and always get the best odds. We recommend using an odds comparison tool like BetStamp to do so. BetStamp compares odds across every sportsbook for games, futures, and player props. You can save time and money by checking BetStamp before you bet, so make sure to download the app today. If you are looking to sign up for a new sportsbook account, please check out the offers available at betstamp.app/edgework. You can also click the link in the description. That is betstamp.app/edgework. Any signups through there does help support the show. Boys, let's get into it. First and foremost, before we get into any hockey talk, Matt, what's going on? How did no power this morning? What is this?
Yeah, the best joke to make right now is that Dallas blew it and Seattle kind of controlled the game and lost, so now I can't afford it. But, man, who knows at this point? It's been about, I don't know, I think like 4 hours. I got the Wi-Fi notification when I first woke up and was like, okay, I'll go make breakfast, forgetting that we have an electric stove, so obviously can't do that. I was like, oh, just use my laptop while the Wi-Fi's out. So here we are.
Well, Moretto, now we'll go to you here. Some bad news for yourself as well. I mean, were you able to light a fire last night with your Kirby Doc Hart Trophy futures tickets after the news came out?
He still might win it just out of respect. I mean, he's gonna finish the year with like a 70% expected goal share in one 4 periods, 2 points in 1.25 games. Yeah, no, that sucks. That sucks for Doc. Really, really shitty to have that happen to a young player who was really kind of coming into his own. Arguably the most important forward on the Habs. Like, I don't know if that's like hot takey, but I watch this team a lot. Suzuki is their most important forward, has not had a great start to the year. Doc was looking like he was really like going to emerge into that, potentially like becoming like, maybe low end 1C, high end 2C, which is kind of, I think, where Suzuki sort of, hits his peak. I don't think he's like ever going to be an elite player, but it just sucks. It just sucks. I'm like really torn up about it. I was looking forward to watching these kids play, and like to lose like one of the most exciting ones after a game. It really sucks.
Well, were you not as confused as I was that the injury ended up being as significant as it was?
Yeah,
the
like
play
nothing.
itself didn't look. Yeah, it looked fairly innocent, and then he came back out and he did a lap around the ice, and and then you see MCL, ACL done for the season. I was kind of shocked, that was the end result of that entire play, I guess, really.
I think this, and again, like last night, the Habs, they looked. I had hockey, so I only saw the first period for the most part. But like, they look brutal, and then I'm looking now today, and 5-on-5 they controlled like a 54% share, so like they've been good at 5-on-5. I still don't see how, because I mean that first period they were awful. Obviously, I didn't see the rest of the game, but 3 power play goals against, 2 shorthanded goals against, and they scored both their goals at 5-on-5. So I don't know. I mean, they somehow like made it look better than it was, at least on paper. I think it was an ugly game, and I think that this is gonna get kind of rough without Doc there. I think that that's a huge loss. I think this team is like pretty destined to finish in the bottom 5 of the league now.
Yeah, I'm fair enough. Well, I mean, could help them.
And now Caden Gooley, by the way, too. Caden Gooley apparently has an upper body injury that he's being evaluated. He left the game in the second period last night, which would also be a really big loss because that pairing has been really nice to start the year, him and Kovacevic.
Yeah. Well, how quickly does this turn into
last year? Everyone got hurt last year too. Yeah. I don't know. Why do we care? Why do we bother? Like, why do I put any emotional investment into this team, into this league? I don't know why. Just like we got the Rangers medical staff. We got Matt's people last year. We this offseason, we brought all the Rangers medical staff over. I'm like, the Rangers pretty much like didn't have a single injury for like 2 years. I'm like, oh, this is great. We're gonna finally like get through this rough patch. And yeah, that's obviously not the case. It's starting even earlier this year than it did last year. At least last year we had like a month and a half of our full team before everyone went down.
All right. Well, let's
The
get
good
into
news
more
is now
last
you have a
night's
built-in excuse for the rest of the season. So
That's true.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. We'll get into last night's games, break down what happened, get into some of our picks from yesterday, and then whether or not we're going to be changing some of our ratings on some of these teams that we had going into the season, kind of continuing off of yesterday's themes. But I see a bunch of people in the chat talking about some of the games from yesterday. So if you are here right now watching, you do have comments or questions, please make sure to fire them away in the chat as well. If you're watching right now and you haven't subscribed to the channel, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. You can turn on notifications so you get notified every single time we go live. And final thing I'll ask, I mean, just throw a like. It takes 2 seconds, but you can smash that like button, as Connor Hartle saying here. And I see Connor also saying the LA Kings won. I ate tacos. Phenomenal Tuesday. Since that is at the top of the chat here, we'll start there. Kings Tuesdays has been a thing that started back last season, kind of just continuing on with the theme here. Last night, the LA Kings roll into Winnipeg, win that one 5-1. Cash the under 6.5 for us there on the bet, on the best bet given out on the show. Moretto, another total taken down by yourself there. Another one knocked out. What is going on with these totals? Well, I know, that's what I'm saying.
I think we were at like 2-0, and then all of a sudden it finishes 5-1. I'm like in the dressing room at hockey. I'm like, oh, 4-0, 5-0, 5-1, 2 minutes left still. I was like, oh my God, if we lost that would have been awful.
Yeah, I mean, what's going on with these totals right now with you? You're just seeing this really well. You're dialed in on these. And then on top of that, what do you make of the LA Kings? Because we also had them on the money line beating the Winnipeg Jets last night. That cashes as plus 116 for us there. If the LA Kings like figure things out here, Pierre-Luc Dubois scores his first goal as a King, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, so in terms of the totals, I just want everyone to remember this heater when regression inevitably hits. And don't come slander us in the comments. We're on a nice little run right now. It will turn at one point, I'm sure. You're not gonna. I think that's like 7 straight totals or something like that. It's not gonna.
It'll be the day I start to tell them.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, the Kings are way too good to be like what we saw from them the first couple of games. This is just, I mean, I know neither of you guys are big fans of Pierre-Luc Dubois. I like what Pierre-Luc Dubois can bring. Maybe that first goal really helped him settle in. They're too strong down the middle. Like, you can't have a team with Kopitar, Deneau, and Dubois as like 1, 2, 3 centers and like not have them find success. I think this team is way too good, and I think we saw that last night, and maybe a little bit more of what I expected from the Jets last night as well. Obviously, I didn't watch the game, so I'm not going to like sit here and say that, break it down and this and that, but just based on what I'm looking at and, the numbers, it looked like the Jets were thoroughly outplayed. 5-on-5, I'm seeing the Kings had a 71% expected goal share. So yeah, like, seems like they were fully deserving of that 5-1 win, and a little bit of regression for the Jets, and it came a little bit soon for Matt's Jets over here.
Yeah, I obviously am very high on the Jets, as low as can be on Pierre-Luc Dubois. Although obviously he's extremely talented, and I think like if there's a game he's going to get up for, obviously he was looking ahead to this one, right? Like that goal had to feel great for him. I honestly did not watch the game myself either, but I imagine he was booed throughout. So obviously for him to come into Winnipeg and get the win, like, I'm sure it meant a lot for him. And yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said, high on the Jets, but no, last night they sounds like they played terribly.
I also want to be clear. I'm not a fan of Pierre-Luc Dubois because you had a specific statement there where you said he can be an incredible player.
Yeah.
He can be, but he's not always. And I think that's the thing that annoys me. And it's not necessarily because he has off games. It's because he just chooses to not show up. And those are the things that are frustrating to me, where you're watching and it's like, well, dude, you could be this incredible player, but you just actively choose to not participate in the game. That's the frustration with Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Yeah, like opening night, you watch them play against the Avs, and you see him like anytime they don't have the puck, and he's just standing there looking like Ovi when his controller died. Like, he just looked disinterested at times, and it's like, you just got traded to LA. You're on monster contract, first game at home against a really good team in Colorado, and it's like, to not really get up for that game, it seemed like that was tough. But like I said, obviously, I think part of him is definitely kind of looking forward to getting this Winnipeg game behind him. And yeah, I mean, he's way too talented not to have a big year. So I still think there's a chance he breaks out. We'll just kind of have to see what happens.
Yeah, Fair enough. Well, another team that had a big night last night would be the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, you start off 0-2, both losses to the Vancouver Canucks, roll into Nashville there to take on the Predators. Matt, is this just kind of like a get right spot? Do you evaluate this one from an Edmonton perspective? You dig into this one too much, or is this more of like, hey, they were going to have this happen because they needed to respond? They were being called out. McDavid and Draisaitl were kind of starting to be put into the spotlight a little bit. So yeah, no duh that they come out and they play this way against the Preds.
Yeah, I mean, it helps when you're playing a team that's 13th best in the West over there, Alex.
Oh my God! It helps when you say Saros has a -3 goal saved above expected last night.
That also helps. But no, in all honesty, like I think we all kind of talked about this at some point. Like we knew this was going to happen at some point with Edmonton. I mean, there's just too much star power offensively for them to kind of keep going through that slump. I actually played Edmonton kind of when it got hit down on the news that Jack Campbell was coming in. But yeah, no, I think it was certainly going to happen eventually with the Oilers. This team's just too talented for this to happen. And yeah, not a great night for Saros, but a great night for people that like to victory lap the Preds not being very good.
My boy Tommy Novak scored again, though.
Well, Moretto, do you make any adjustments to the Predators after a game like last night? You kind of take the tape, throw it away, move on to the next one. Like, is there any adjustments on either sides of these teams where you're looking at saying, hey, I got to change this going forward?
Again, I mean, this is where sometimes I think not watching the games can also help because you're not swayed by like watching a 6-1 beatdown, because I'm looking at the numbers and I'm seeing, 50% expected goal share at 5-on-5, evenly split. Obviously, I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the fact that, when a team gets down so much so early that, you're going to probably naturally control a bit more of the play going forward when you're chasing the game. So I take that with a grain of salt too. But like Saros, -3 goal saved above expected. Obviously just an off night for him. If you want to adjust your opinions of Saros based on that, then like I think that's where you can start like talking about maybe adjusting on the Predators. But on the team overall, I think when, you have a Vezina caliber goalie that allows 4 goals on 11 shots in the first period, you're just chalking that up to an off night for him, and you're not going to really make any adjustments, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Matt, I got to ask you about this. I saw you tweet about it last night. We talked about it a little bit this morning here, but just to further get into it, the Seattle Kraken power play is god-awful. It's tough to watch. It's tough from a results-based standpoint as well here. Now, you got to think, like, if that power play has even just the slightest pulse, they're going to start to create some more offense and just give themselves even more of a chance to win and be in these games. And even last night, that game against Colorado, I mean, they walk away losing that one 4-1. And yet it didn't really feel like this was a 4-1 loss to the Colorado Avalanche last night. What's going on with the Kraken? And is there any way that you could kind of look at this and be like, hey, a fixed power play, fixing this, changing anything here might give you a little bit more confidence in them going forward? Is that power play actually like a dread for you looking at this team and evaluating their games going forward?
Yeah, I think coming into the year with the Kraken, like the one thing that a lot of people kind of pointed to was their even strength shooting percentage from last year and how they kind of led the league with that. And that was due for some regression, right? And I think part of why I was high on them coming into this year is they were also due for some positive regression in other areas. I know they had some low save percentages in different situations. Like I know their power play shooting percentage wasn't overly high last year, so it did feel like some of that maybe balanced out. The power play just looks dreadful. I mean, even like if you watch the game and watch them on a power play, like this is what I was telling you before we got on the show. Like I think 30 of 32 teams in the NHL have some version of one-timers in their power play. The Kraken have a lefty on the left side and a righty on the right side, and they're kind of sending the puck over, and you just have no options at that point. Like teams know how to defend that too easily. So like it doesn't even kind of have the feel that they're going to score. That said, it's hard to keep it up for this long at being this bad. I don't know the exact numbers at this point. Obviously, I'm Amish currently, but I think they're like 1 of 13 or something on the power play at this point. That said, you can kind of look at it glass half full, right? Like they played against a really good team in Colorado, frankly controlled the game at 5-on-5. Like,
yeah,
can pretty comfortably say that they did not get the result that was deserved last night. Like obviously, and not only did the power play not score, like they allowed the shorthanded goal that ended up being the game winner. So even if this power play can get back to being like somewhat okay, I think that they'll be fine. And if you look at it, right, like they didn't really lose a whole lot from either power play, like Brian Donato, I guess, from last year. Like, but all the guys are still back from last year. So I think the power play is definitely due to be a little bit better. But yeah, it's definitely been a discouraging start.
Yeah. I mean, it was tough. Like watching that game last night, watching Seattle dominate for what felt like most of that second period there. They get a power play, and you're kind of thinking, all right, here's your shot to take the lead, turn this thing around, turn it in your favor. And it's like Colorado chance, Colorado shorthanded goal, Colorado chance, Colorado chance. You're like, okay, well, we've just been watching Seattle with another extra man on the ice. They could barely get in the zone. Once they did, they struggled to hold the zone. So it was tough from that standpoint watching that Seattle game last night. But I mean, ultimately, we'll see if they can make any adjustments on that power play, and maybe it'll start to help them out, turn things around there. Now, final team that I kind of wanted to look at here from takeaways from last night, Moretto, you and I were both higher on Tampa coming into this season than I think majority of people were. Not mind you, watching the team, I not necessarily going to downgrade them myself as a team, but goaltending is not great there. And now you're sitting here 1-2-1 to start the season. You're averaging 4.25 goals against per game as a team. It's kind of tough because it feels like anytime there's any chance going back the other way, it's finding a way into the back of their net. Is there any adjustments that you're making to Tampa? Do you think maybe we came into this one with the wrong idea of what they were or what they could be this season, or you just kind of holding out until they can get some better goaltending here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not adjusting anything yet. This is kind of like Johansson, just based on this, the surface stats and like goals saved above expected. He had a great game against Nashville, saved 2 goals above expected, and then minus 0.3, minus 0.6 in the next 2. Not like awful, but like obviously not great. But like this team is too good to not be able to overcome something like that. If he's like, minus 1, minus 1.5 goals saved above expected every night, I don't think it's going to be like that. So I'm not really adjusting yet, but it's possible that I'm just like a bit stubborn on Tampa too, and that'll be something that comes back to kind of bite me. But for now, I still think this is a very good Tampa team, a veteran Tampa team that like can, with a well-coached one too, that I think can push through this no problem. They kind of put the lines in a blender a little bit, and I think offensively, we saw a lot more from them last night than we have through the first couple of games, where first couple of games they were relying on like the power play or just capitalizing on like their few chances and just like an elite shooting percentage. Whereas last night they were actually able to generate more, especially at 5-on-5. So I think that they'll be fine going forward. I'm not like adjusting too much yet, but obviously something where like maybe I'm going to be a little bit more timid to pull the trigger on them. But they're going home now for like a long homestand, and hopefully, a game against Vancouver next is perhaps a great anything like we saw last night from the Canucks against the Flyers, where they just got absolutely curb stomped at 5-on-5.
Yeah, fair enough. Matt, anything for you on Tampa, where they're at with the goaltending situation as well right now?
Yeah, goaltending, again, you kind of touched on it with Johansson. Like, he had a great first game. Next to, not great, but like, he's not the reason they lost last night. Frankly, like, he made some really good saves down the stretch to even like give them a chance to get that game into overtime. We talked about it on a previous show, but I think Tampa may be getting to the point here where they start to become a little undervalued. I think people are now kind of seeing like they lost to Detroit, they lost to Ottawa, they lost to Buffalo. Like, none of those 3 teams are seemingly great. So I think that we may start to see prices on Tampa come down a little bit. Certainly curious to see kind of what happens over the next week or so, but I think there could definitely be some buy low spots on Tampa. Because like you said, this team is just too talented. Like, they've won with subpar backup goaltending in the past. Like, there's no reason to expect that they won't still be able to do it. And like, this is still a better team. Like, it'll turn at some point. But yeah, I'm definitely curious to see how the market reacts to them losing a few straight games here.
Like, are they going to be dogs on Saturday at home to Toronto?
Yes.
They might, I think. I think you'll probably get plus
so.
money. Yeah.
I think so, yes. But Austin Matthews is going to score like 7 goals, so then it won't really matter.
It's fair. It is Jonas Johansson, so.
Austin Matthews versus Jonas Johansson is just like not fair. It's like watching.
But Matthews versus Soderblom is that's where we draw the line.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that's where it blurs there.
Yeah. Also, I just another little side note from last night. Props to Eberle for dropping the gloves early in the game. He's like a veteran guy who doesn't have to do that. I think he's garnered enough respect in this league to where, like, obviously you should be doing in that situation and answering the bell, but like he's not a guy who has to. So props to him for giving O'Connor that fight. I thought that was pretty high class of him.
Do we even talk about the Stars, or do we just let that one go?
No.
Might as well get into it now.
I mean, another shootout loss. I don't think we're ever going to win a shootout on this show or just in general. And how many times can Vegas cost me money this year? Last year, we're going to find out. We're racking up quite a bill. If it wasn't for Vegas, our ROI would probably be like 15% on the show.
I don't want to know how much money we as a show, viewers, etc., have lost on the Dallas Stars against the Vegas Golden Knights in the last like 7 months.
Yeah.
Like I don't even want to start to think about the figure. Aiden Hill's still yet to make a save in that shootout last night. Like, you score a goal and hit 2 crossbars. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a team hit 2 crossbars in a 3-round shootout. Like, just in a game that probably never should have gotten to overtime, that was tied late on like a deflection halfway to the net, the point. Like,
if you really want to be sick, I don't know if you do, but Aiden Hill has now saved 5.4 goals above expected this season. That's like, I mean, he's second in the league after Arvid Soderblom, man.
Matt, 49 million.
I don't know when he became the best goalie in the league or how, but like
second best after Soderblom, who was number 1 with 6 point something goals saved above expected. Not even Zach. That wasn't even like that's legitimately he's number 1 in the NHL right now.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So money, not happy.
Mackenzie Blackwood was going to be on that pace until the 3rd period last night. That regression came quick.
I haven't looked at this list too closely lately, but another side note, it's nice to see Markstrom at number 4 because maybe that's like a sign of him actually having a nice bounce back season. And if the Flames can figure out in front of him, last year was they couldn't figure out the goaltending. Now this year it seems like the team can't figure it out, and it's now they got the goaltending. So I don't know if the team can play like they did last season and they can get the goaltending from Markstrom, then the ceiling is pretty high for this team, I think.
Yeah. No, and I think we kind of all expected that regression back to Markstrom being like a good goalie again. Like last year just kind of seemingly came out of nowhere. So I think that's kind of also something that we're expecting. It also seems like it's being rather priced in with these prices on the Flames. Like, I don't think personally I've been on the Flames yet this year. But no, they definitely have potential to be a very good team.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as the Markstrom thing, one of the things that was driving me nuts online in the summer was people talking about how, like, we saw it with people coming. It was Toronto based for myself seeing the conversation because it was people talking about Tree Living coming here being like, he ruined the Calgary Flames, and it was like, all right, let's take a step back. Like, they're talking about Markstrom saying, oh, he paid Markstrom all this money and he turned into a pumpkin. I'm like, he had one season where if he was like slightly better, they probably make the playoffs, like slightly better. And then even all the other stuff that went on with those players there, with the drop-offs and everything like that, it's just like you get that little bit of improvement from Markstrom this season, and they're that much better. And I don't think that that's who he is as a goaltender. I expect that to kind of just come back. Now, Connor Hartle here bringing up to, doesn't Tampa have Peter down in the minors? Talking about Kochetkov. No, he is playing on Tampa's AHL team with Syracuse, but that is a whole other disgusting situation going on between Carolina and their minor leagues and their minor league system right now, where Kochetkov is now playing for Syracuse. And they're just kind of sharing. So
because Carolina doesn't have an AHL affiliate right now.
Correct. So he's technically in Tampa's AHL team, yes, but he's not Tampa's. He's with Carolina. So that's why he's there. So I'm sure that they would love to bring him up, but that is not possible as he is not part of Tampa. But let's get to tonight's games. We do have 2 on the schedule. We'll break those down. If anybody has questions in the chat, again, please feel free to send them. We'll try to answer them as we go throughout here. In terms of bets, if we don't have any, we're not going to force them here on the show. You get quality picks over quantity of picks here. That was what.
Although last night we had both.
Well, yes, last night, sometimes you're going to get a mix. You're going to get quality of quantity of picks. But that's what leads us to have be up 24.2 units, 2.5% ROI for a full season, and now through the first week and a bit of this season here. So that's a positive sign. We'll keep rolling with that. But just the pre-warning that there might not be that many picks, especially when there's only 2 games a night. So first of all, we'll start with the Washington Capitals going into Ottawa to take on the Senators here tonight. Currently looking at this one, a total of 6.5. You got Ottawa, big favorites, minus 164, best price available against the Capitals here tonight. Matt, is this a line that's just too far out for you to play? Would you have any interest either side? What's the number that you might be looking for to get involved in here?
Yeah, I don't really have much interest in either side here. I think if anything, I'd maybe be looking at Ottawa here. I think the prices at this point are pretty much gone. I believe the market's been bet up from what it was kind of open yesterday. If I'm correct, it opened around minus 135 or so. Yeah, I have nothing here. I mean, obviously, I think I'm a little higher on the Capitals than the market seems to be, but I just don't like them in this spot. I was obviously on them against Pittsburgh, and then an hour before the game, you hear that Darcy Kemper is going to miss it because he's having a baby. Congratulations to him. Had a number go against me for a lot of ways. I can say that's the first time I've ever had a number go against me because of the paternity list. So good start there. And then obviously they got thoroughly dominated for much of that game by the Penguins. But yeah, I have no lean on this game at all.
Anything for you here, Moretto?
I want to play the Sens, but I'm just not like quite there. I wish we could get a slightly better number. This obviously was bet up a little bit on the news that Josh Norris will play tonight. He'll make a season debut, so that's big for Ottawa, obviously, to have him back in the lineup. Now, if only they could figure out a way to get Shane Pinto in there as well, which doesn't seem to be possible right now for them, which is too bad because I think that forward group is pretty solid when you have both those guys in. But yeah, I have nothing in this game as Matt's internet goes again and his power is just completely nothing for me here. That's basically no total, no side, no anything. I just can't get to anything in this one.
All right.
Well, I'm going to need some winners or I'm not going to be able to afford my phone bill pretty soon.
I know. All right. Final game of the night here. Of the second of the two. Pittsburgh going into Detroit to take on the Red Wings tonight. Detroit coming into this one, current best price plus 112. We're seeing a total of 6.5 here again. Matt, I'll go to you first because I know that there was a point in which you had interest. I don't think that number is still there for you at right now, but maybe you could talk a little bit about what number you were looking for in this game and why you're no longer interested in playing it.
Yeah, last night I saw a plus 119 on Detroit, and Detroit's a team that was very high on coming into the year. I bet them at least once, if not twice already this season. Obviously, kind of their play so far has made me feel a little bit better about myself on that one. But yeah, obviously the numbers kind of bet down a little bit. I think if it gets back up into that plus 115, plus 120 range, can certainly get on there. Obviously, at this point, I'm Amish, so I can't even get goaltending confirmation, but I have to imagine it's Husso in there for the Red Wings tonight after James Reimer posted a shutout to ruin my over the other night. But yeah, no, at this current price, I'm not overly interested. But if Pittsburgh were to get that, I'd probably play Detroit small at plus 115.
Husso has been confirmed as a starter tonight, by the way.
Thank you.
There you
go. Man, I miss electricity.
Okay, so looking for buy points of plus 115, plus 112 best available right now. You're seeing this down as low as plus 104 across 104, 105 across different books. So obviously, again, make sure you line up. Use BetStamp to do so. BetStamp.app/edgework or click the link in the description. Moretto, any chance you got a total for us here tonight? Is this one just not within range anymore? What are your thoughts on 6.5 right now?
Yeah, I was like leaning towards the under, but I don't know. The over keeps taking money, so maybe at one point we'll get like a 7 at like minus 115, minus 120, which I'd probably play at that point. But I think like I just maybe haven't adjusted enough for these two teams because offensively they've generated a ton and defensively they've allowed a ton so far. At 5-on-5, they've been kind of bleeding chances, bleeding goals, and creating a ton of chances, and creating a ton of scoring opportunities. So I can see why the over is taking money. Whether it's actually just reactionary to a small sample size or whether it's like warranted based on, this is how these teams are going to be this year. Obviously, the Red Wings, we talked about the back end kind of being a little bit shaky despite having a lot of NHL vets, very deep forward group. I'm not a huge buyer in the Penguins up front, but clearly like they've been, since that first game, they've looked pretty good offensively. So, maybe that's like the Carlson effect and, the amount of offense they can generate from the back end too. So I think maybe I'm just a little bit slow to react to these teams. So I'm not going to kind of jump in now, but like if this keeps getting bet towards the over and we get like a 7, minus 115, minus 120-ish on the under, then I think I would probably have to play it at that point.
All right, there you go. No best bets for us today. Sorry about that. But again, we're not going to force them. So that is what it is. And we'll be back tomorrow with a full slate of games. Myself, So Money, and Rusty Bill will be back on here to break down tomorrow's massive slate. So make sure you're subscribed here to the Edgework channel. Turn on notifications so that you get notified as soon as we go live tomorrow. You're not going to want to miss that show, as we'll probably have a bunch of best bets that will come out then. So Money still 100% on the season. There was no best bets for him the other day, and with his ghost pick last week, he's coming in 1-0. He's a perfect record for him this year, so look to continue that on tomorrow's show. But Matt, thank you for fighting through this. No laptop, no power, no nothing. Just figured it out, got on your phone, came on here to talk with us this morning, so appreciate you doing that. Moretto, as always, appreciate you taking the time to do this. For everyone in the chat, thank you very much for hopping in here today. Before you leave here, make sure to hit that like button if you did enjoy the show. And for everyone, we'll see you guys back here tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time for more picks and previews. Good luck on your bets tonight. Let's have a day.